Imagine a world where Erasing Strike is a playable skill in Last Epoch. Using Vengeance like a mana generator? Using Volatile Reversal to fix your mana? The 0.9 cooldown recovery speed nerfs to Volatile Reversal? Building mana regeneration? No. We don't do that here. All those Path of Exile players checking out Last Epoch for the first time, it seemed like every single one of them wanted to play Erasing Strike, and they wanted to figure out how to play this skill without having to deal with Volatile Reversal for mana, without having to deal with mana generation, without having to deal with the enormous cost for the skill that just bonks. Well, it turns out the answer is actually yes, you can. You can play Erasing Strike and have fun at the same time. Wild, I know. So, jokes aside, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is you can play Erasing Strike, and you can have infinite mana and zero issues while you're at it. The bad news is it's a bug. This is a forbidden build. We're highlighting bugs that are kind of fun, but they're going to be fixed. So if you want to have fun, do it right now. And the reason that I'm sharing this video with you is, first of all, it's very fun and I like it. Second of all, even with capped crit, not using Void Cleave for any damage purposes, not having to worry about mana, Erasing Strike still kind of feels mediocre to me. The build you're seeing on the screen is lacking maybe 200 or 300% increased damage, maybe some min-maxed gear, but with this kind of gear that I'll show you in just a moment, I kind of expected a little bit more damage. So here we are in game looking at our level 100 Void Knight character. We have some pretty good gear here. We got our Sularon Step with a bunch of crit multi. We have an LP Apathy's Maw with exalted melee critical strike chance on it. We have perma 100% crit chance, and we can scale crit multi all the way to the moon. Normally, in an Erasing Strike build, you would pair it with Void Cleave, and Void Cleave would allow you to crit with your Erasing Strike. So you Void Cleave, crit, and it's kind of like a 2-button playstyle, which is neat, given that Void Cleave now is a movement skill as well. It feels very fun to use. So that's what the normal playstyle would look like. We're we're messing around with. We're playing Forbidden Erasing Strike. And if you've seen any of my videos here on YouTube before, you know that Forbidden means that we are making use of a bug knowingly for fun. So normally in Erasing Strike, you can't just hold down right. Surely, you can't just hold down right click and expect to not run out of mana. And if you're coming here from Path of Exile and this is everything you've ever wanted to do, I get it. I understand that this is everything you've ever wanted to do. Just holding down right click. Oh my god, it's so good. So there's the bug. Normally you need to deal with your enormous mana problems. You need to deal with where's your crit coming from. You need to be able to scale your damage. And maybe you put 1 point in this time loop thing. Maybe you put 3 points into this time loop thing. And it's a real big problem these days, especially because Volatile Reversal just had a cooldown recovery speed nerf where you can't use it as much for mana as you did in the past. So the bug that we're using here allows us to hold down right click, which means that I can finally live my dream of both playing Erasing Strike and having fun at the same time. So let's go over the bug. In Void Knight, there are some nodes that no one has ever taken before. So it doesn't surprise me, frankly, that these nodes are bugged. So we have these nodes here. I'll read them to you. So you have a chance to get a Void Essence on kill. Void Essences last 7 seconds. They do some stuff. You can have a maximum of 3 of them. The subsequent node that no one's ever taken, it says, well, you have 3 or more. If you go negative mana, you consume 1 Void Essence to set your mana to 20% of your maximum mana pool. So if you have a very big mana pool, this scales up with that because it's a percentage of your maximum. And it says this effect has a 10-second cooldown. So it turns out there's a couple things wrong with this. First of all, it doesn't have a 10-second cooldown. Second of all, you do need to have Void Essences. It doesn't consume any of your Void Essences. And when we pair these nodes with something in Erasing Strike, we can actually turn it into infinite mana altogether. So pop open the Erasing Strike skill tree, and the reason we're using this skill instead of anything else is that not only are we getting those Void Essences on kill, but with this node here, it says Erasing Strike crits have a chance to grant you a Void Essence. So when you're critting, even on one single enemy, you'll be gaining 1 Void Essence, and because the Void Essences don't even get consumed, every single time you go negative on mana, you automatically go back to 20% of your maximum mana. So this node in particular, paired with this bugged node that doesn't actually consume Void Essences and no longer has a cooldown, or I guess doesn't have a cooldown, means that we can just hold down right click and spam as many racing strikes as we want. So like you just saw a second ago, you can just kind of hold down right click, and as your mana gets destroyed, or in this case erased, it comes back, which means you can hold down right click and keep bonking. So the build that we're playing here, we kind of slapped together some gear. We have enough critical strike chance along with anomaly in order to cap our crits. We have some strength and void damage because there's not two good impulses that you use to scale your damage here. We're missing approximately maybe 300, maybe 400% increased damage. So we are missing damage on this build. But suspend your disbelief for just a moment. With our level 100 character, with our strong gear that allows us to cap our crit and scale crit multi, while holding down right click and never running out of mana, Erasing Strike still has some fundamental issues with it. If you're running up against spiders or skeletons or monsters that have 1 HP, this build looks incredible and it feels so good to bonk and never run out of mana, and you can just run through the monolith and bonk, 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 hold down right click on the boss. It feels very, very fun to play. But at the end of the day, Erasing Strike doesn't really do much damage. Even though we have infinite mana, even though we can hold down right click, it still kind of comes up short. And what I'm hoping to do by illustrating this bug, by illustrating the forbidden Erasing Strike here, is to illustrate that, okay, first of all, everybody who comes over from Path of Exile, the very first thing they say is, I'm going to play Erasing Strike because it's good. Got bad news for you. Second of all, if you do play Last Epoch and you do have hundreds, thousands like me, of hours in this game, Erasing Strike comes up short. It's playable, kind of. It's definitely fun. It has like a role play kind of thing. Like you want to bonk things. You want to deal tons of damage. In the past, Erasing Strike had an extra 100% more damage multiplier on it. So it dealt twice as much damage as it used to, because that's what 100% more does. Currently, I forget when Erasing Strike got changed. It was like 084, maybe 085 patch. But they changed it where they removed the 100% more damage multiplier, and instead we have more synergy with hybrid spell damage, and it feels like we're supposed to play some kind of hybrid spell damage thing, and that's just nonsense. I can go through all the details of why it's nonsense, but like, you need to scale one thing. You can't be a hybrid build and like have spells and melee attacks going at the same time. Your payoff is going to be so much bigger if you can focus on just one thing instead. And ever since Erasing Strike got changed, you're kind of being pulled in multiple directions. So hopefully this bug gets fixed, because having infinite mana is probably something that the developers did not intend to exist in this game. If you would like to take the outline of this character and have fun with it before it gets patched, you will have lots of fun. You won't kill bosses particularly quickly. Maybe you will. And if you do, you know what? If you kill bosses particularly quickly, if you can figure out how to make Erasing Strike deal damage, assuming that you also have infinite mana, tell me. I want the details. I want to know what it takes to make that happen. And maybe I'll play with it as well, because I'm going to leave this character set up here as well. So I'll link a rough build description of this character in the description of this video. You can take a look at it. You can play around with this bug as long as it still exists in the game. But the point at the end of the day is to say that even with infinite mana, I still don't really want to play Erasing Strike, because it doesn't really compete with the strongest builds in the game. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.